Hi, folks. Welcome to the Moving On podcast. I'm Jay Norman, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jessie Norman. Just like many of you, Jay and I have both walked through some difficult seasons in our lives.
And we know just how easy it is to get stuck.
We now have 5 beautiful
and crazy
children, and because of everything we've been through, our home operates on grace.
A concept we didn't fully understand until way later on in life.
Until we actually needed it ourselves. We want to share through stories of love and laughter,
how we were moving on, and how big of a game changer grace can be.
In relationship with one another, and how we treat ourselves, and in our case, blending a family.
Something that may just require the largest amount of grace to date.
Preach.
You never know what road life's going to take you on. We have a podcast.
Yes, we do, and we really hope y'all enjoy it.
Hi, babe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing so good.
Good. It's good to see you.
You too. I haven't seen you very much. I saw you at the dinner table.
We did see each other at the dinner table, and we've been busy working.
Yep.
Had one with a birthday. Took him to the movie last night.
Yep.
Football game the night before. Mm-hmm. Football game the night before that.
Basketball game today.
Yep.
Basketball game yesterday.
And 3 practices and a game during the week also. So.
Yep. If y'all are just learning about us, we have a blended family, and together we have 5 children, and they all are in sports. Our youngest is not in season right now, but he will be starting next month.
And so we've got 4 playing basketball. We always talk about that. And Jess is coaching a team now, which is 1 night a week coaching, and then normally Saturday and Sunday games. So it's taking a lot of time, but I think you're having a lot of fun.
Oh, gosh, I love it so much. And I hadn't been able to work with her school teams at all. So that it's a huge honor and a huge blessing to me. The varsity coach was not able to coach because of the rules. And so he asked me to step in, and the girls are amazing, and they make such huge strides. Every practice and every game, they become better as individual athletes, and they become more cohesive as a team. That's fun for me to see.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. They had a lot of improvement today.
Goodness, they played so well today.
They did. So also this week, you had something that was a big deal.
Yes.
A big solo event.
Yes. I am no longer dead weight. Put the last nail in the coffin. I had a lot of anxiety for our first few years of marriage because I'm not helping out on the farm the way I want to be. But going back to what we were talking about, we've got 5 littles. So that's my main job.
Yep.
But finally got on a plow, a field cultivator, and ran my first 6-hour solo stint. And my heart sings. I already knew I was going to love it, and it went by in the blink of an eye. I know that's not how it will always be, but just even, like we were saying, the strides they make each practice or each game, that's how I felt. That morning, I was not doing very well, and I was so uptight, and it was so intense.
And that was a great bunch of help with that part of it.
And the next hour, it was so fun. It was so natural and fun, and I still have a whole lot to learn, but...
And so we had really wet year this last year we've talked about on the podcast.
Yeah.
So we had some ground that was prevented planting.
Yeah.
We didn't plant it. Had some wet holes that grew up, and then we got busy in harvest, and some of the worst spots grew up pretty good before we got back to them, and I went ahead and said, well, we'll try to run this field cultivator through it. Well, the weeds were a little big in those wet holes, and she got off in one and got to do a bunch of digging.
Yeah,
and,
it wasn't just one. It was like,
it
was each pass.
Yeah.
So I had to dig out probably 5 or 6 times. If I would have just waited about 30 minutes for one of our other crew members to show up, I wouldn't have even had to deal with it. But I just got going too fast.
Timing was a little off. So, but you did good, and I'm proud of you for doing that. And
Thanks, babe.
You probably opened Pandora's box because wheat planting is starting pretty quick, and you'll probably be stuck on one for a while now.
That's okay. I'm really excited, and I had my dog with me, and I look forward to having one of the kids with me. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But it was so funny because I was trying to take it off of his plate and add to the crew, and Jay was sick this week, so I was just trying to add to him. Make him into 2 people is usually my main goal. He wouldn't leave me, though. He just drove in his truck around the tractor, filming me. He would stop me and get on the tractor every few passes and talk with me. And I was like, this is not what I was wanting to do. But I know I kept apologizing. Like, I'm not helping you. You're still here with me. I'm not helping. I'm sorry. And then I realized it's just all a part of the process.
Yeah.
You just have to be with me to show me the ropes, and then I will add to our crew in the next few months.
Well, it's just too, like you pull in that field and I tell you this, and then I realize, hey, you're going to get down the hill and there's this spot, and then you got past that, and then there's those weeds, and I didn't want to just leave.
Yeah.
And leave you there to figure that out and on your own, or something happened. So, but it all worked out fine, and you did really good.
Thanks.
And I was gone for several hours, and you did good, so it worked out
really
fine.
Nice.
So on the farm, we do have wheat planting coming up, and probably within the next 2 weeks, and that'll be a pretty wild run to get that done. But we're dry right here where we live, and a lot of the ground we're farming is pretty dry, so we need a rain to get it ready to go, and we got a lot of stuff going on with cattle we're going to be doing too, so it's going to be busy.
Right. We've been working to find some new ground for them, and some neat spots that Jay's always wanted have opened up, and so it's been a huge blessing.
Yeah, it's been fun, sure has.
But I've been working for 10 weeks. My nephew is coming down from Brooklyn. My brother and sister are coming up from Baton Rouge, and my cousins are coming over from Atlanta, and we're all meeting in Chattanooga for a trail run, and that's next weekend. Really excited, and it's kind of the first thing I've set out to train for, and actually did train. You know, you have the best intentions, but things get away from you. This actually sat down with a calendar and set out my miles and what I needed to execute, and I actually followed through with it. So I'm not worried or having to kind of talk it up like I'm not ready. Don't expect big things from me, to my brother and nephew. I'm just open, and I trained, and this is going to be fun, and I run like a grandpa, and I enjoy it. And subsequently, I've had Farm Wives Run, which is a program that 3 of my girlfriends, Farm Wife Guru, the Grateful Farm Wife, and the Mrs. Mom Bod, we've all done together, and we've gathered about 70 or 80 farm wives, and we've run mileage together each week and kind of talked about it online and had fun with it and sent each other pictures and tagged and just tried to get some energy going around getting active and running. So that kind of went hand in hand with my running for the trail run.
Well, it's been fun to watch you run and train and do that and progress as much as you have in a really short time. And it's been fun to watch Farm Wives run, how that's grown, and kind of keeping up with that a little bit.
For sure. They sold tank tops, and so everybody's wearing the same tank top. My girlfriend, Kylie, is the Grateful Farm Wife. She ran her half marathon today and wore her tank top, and I'll run our trail run next weekend and use the tank top. And it's just been such a neat community where people, because with my training, this was me coming off of like a 4-year hiatus to come back at it.
Right.
And we've seen girls jump back in it just to join in with the fun. And that was the whole point.
Right.
So I know it's probably been a lot of running on my feed. It'll change soon, but this is just something we're doing that's just been really exciting for us.
I hope y'all can keep it up. I think it's been a good thing.
Yeah.
I really do.
I like it so much.
So earlier in the week, you met a lady for lunch.
Yes.
Or supper, actually. And tell us a little bit about that. Sound like a pretty neat deal.
When we stepped in this space, there was somebody that stood out to me. Her name is Blended Book Company on Instagram. Her first name is Summer. I had noticed them right when we got into the space. I loved their logo. I loved the way that their account looked. And I knew that she and I were pretty cut from the same cloth. So I kind of kept my eye on her, but for some reason, I never did connect with her. I thought that I had attempted to connect with her, but I've gone back through all of our social media, and there was no attempt or anything. So that makes me laugh because we talk about the timing of it. So anyways, a girlfriend of mine on Instagram connected us this week and said, "Have you met my friend Summer? You guys would have a lot to share with each other." Well, turns out she's moved into our friend's home in Mckinzie.
Another one of those crazy things that's happened in this process.
I swear, everything that we've walked through this year is connected to each other.
It really is.
You should see the connections that we've found throughout this whole process. It's just been so completely and utterly orchestrated.
Yeah.
So I go to their website and I start reading up on some things. I got to her opening bio, like we have on ours, and it brought me to complete emotion. I had to pull over on the side of the road. And what's funny is when she felt like the Lord laid it originally on her heart, she was driving down the tollway and he told her to pull over and write this down. And so she laughs that I tell her I had to pull over. But what he told her was, obviously this blended book company, so they're obviously a blended family. And what he told her was, I'm not asking you to raise these children so that they call you mother. I'm asking you to raise these children so that they know how to call me father. And I just couldn't believe that she was able to put in words what was on the inside of my heart, that I was really having a hard time uncovering. It was this truth that I knew in my heart, and I know that how I feel, but I've never seen it on paper. And I swear tears burst out of my eyes onto my front windshield.
Yeah.
And so I tried to get a hold of her, and she was so gracious and ready to meet. And we met each other, and I've just never met someone. I don't even really know how to put it into words because I've never met someone so aligned with me, someone's mission so aligned with mine, someone's heart so aligned with mine.
And dealing with all the same things that aligned.
Yes, with so much humility.
Yeah. She's
coming on our show. I cannot wait for you guys to meet her. So much humility. I kept teasing her, did you want to move in with us? Or I'm in love, and we still have so much to learn about each other, but she has written a blended family curriculum, and some girls that she has led are leading it at their church. So she didn't like it. She pulled it from the shelves, pulled it from Amazon, and she rewrote it. I was like, do you mind if I leave you here at this table? I'm going to go read it. And she said, it's when she told me she had pulled it. And so the next day she said, text me, God must love you. And I said, why? And she said, I've been waiting to re-release this to the public, and it's not time yet. She's such a huge, advocate for his perfect timing. And she said he's not giving me the go-ahead to release to the public, but he's wanting me to send it to you. And it was the neatest way for someone to say God loves you, is here comes this book. So I sat up in my studio in Jay's chair where he's sitting now and got my drinks. I had a coffee, a Topo Chico, and a Diet Coke. And
that's a common occurrence too, but go ahead.
A what?
That's a common occurrence to have 3 drinks.
I needed to be hydrated.
Yeah, I got you.
And I had my blanket on, and I read the first 8 sentences of her book. And God filleted my being out for everyone to see. I had so much emotion. I didn't even feel it coming. I didn't know it was coming. Just all of a sudden, I was in the same amount of emotion that I experienced in an anxiety attack, but this was more of a stripping down. And this is the first 7 sentences of the book. Jay came home. We were going to record that day. And I just went on and on and on for about an hour about what I had learned. And finally, Jay's like, babe, I need you to start writing some of this stuff down. We've got to write it down for our podcast. And I was like, oh, this isn't for our podcast. This is the first 7 pages of her book. I just want you to, I was just so, you remember, I was I was so on fire.
It was good stuff.
It really was. I was so passionate. And I am so excited, and I hate for this to be a teaser because we can't talk about any of it. And obviously, she's not here. We're not about to surprise y'all with her like we did Jerry. But
Right.
So anyways, that I'm really, really excited to bring that to you guys in the next couple of months. And what's really neat is everything that can convey to blended families can convey to every family.
Right.
Whether you have little children or big children, this is just who we are in Christ as individuals,
right.
and what it's going to take to slough off all of the old and step into the new, who he's wanting us to be.
Well, and hopefully she will work out for her to be on the show. And having Jerry on last time, I think, was really one of those things that we talked about, us being friends, you being friends with him, me becoming friends, and how all that played into the fact for both of us to know him well enough to have the conversation we had with him, for him to be open and talk to us like that. It was pretty amazing, and he'll look forward to other guests too.
Yeah, for sure. That was really nice. That's what we heard a lot was, you three are so good with each other. And we're like, Liz, we're always together in some form or fashion. Yeah. And we're all just very comfortable with each other because there's probably not something that's been left unsaid.
Right.
It's a very safe space.
Right. Well, and just one of those people that's really easy to talk to any way you cut it.
Yeah,
it really
I really enjoyed him being on, and
I did too.
I can't wait to have him on again.
I was a little apprehensive about having guests and what the dynamic, just because we had done it.
Yeah.
For that period of time, it was just us. I didn't know how it would work.
And it was so easy.
Oh, it was so easy, and it was fun, and it made it easier too.
It really did. We wanted to have another guest for you guys this week, but Jay's been sick, and we just drug our feet. So we have our guests lined up on who's coming, but our studio is about 4 steps away from our bed. And so we didn't want to get anyone sick.
Yeah, so got some coming in the future, just none this week. And not sure on the schedule on all that yet, but we will be working on it, looking forward to it.
Yeah, my main one I asked, and he immediately texted back yes. Yeah. And I had a whole presentation ready.
Didn't even have to use it.
For when he declined. Yeah. And I was like, oh, too easy. But I'm really, really excited.
And that's another one, too, that... crazy story of how that'll come to pass. We'll tell that later.
It'll be a lot of fun.
It really will. So, babe, we were at the football game the other night. You've been carrying some stuff around the car for another kid that stayed here.
Oh, yeah.
And you sent a kid after it to the car with her to get it, and it kind of started us down the path of what our main part of our discussion is tonight.
Which is what?
Oh, the steam rising off your head when you're angry.
Well, I am a huge armchair expert fan, and one time he said when he gets triggered and when he feels just this gigantic amount of rage rise, that he's far enough in his sobriety and far enough in his therapy that he can actually stop and say, excuse me. And he just goes to his bedroom and says, why? Why is there so much rage attached to this small event? So I'm not the most organized person, and that's something that I've really been working on. Nonetheless, the past 6 months, I have traveled around with all 5 of our kids' stuff in the back of the car and about 6 other children's stuff in the back of our car. We've even been at that child's home and not given their stuff back. We've been speaking to the child or the parents by the car. I would have had to just take a step over, grab it, hand it to them. Still didn't do that.
Yeah.
So it was something, I don't know if you guys do this, but if you leave something at my home, just say goodbye to it. I'm never getting it. I'm never getting it back to you. And it's something that I'm wanting to improve because we have so many children, so many birthday parties, so much stuff. We're kind of the party house. So much stuff gets left here. So anyways, all of this said, I'm talking to my friend, and he's about to walk off, and I go, I have his stuff in the car. And he's like, what? I'm like, I have her stuff in the car. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, Lily, take her to the car and grab that bag in the back seat. So they're gone for like 30 minutes.
Forever, yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
We're waiting on Jay's son to start playing football. She walks back up without the friend, hands me the keys and says, I couldn't find it, and walks off. And I can recognize it immediately that the rage building in my soul was not from those clothes. It couldn't be. It just couldn't. And as the night went on, even though I'm mature enough, I feel mature enough to see it's not about the clothes. It just kept building and building. And I kept telling Jay, something's going on in my heart about these clothes. I can't even explain to you the rage I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, you were pretty fired up. Your eyes were lit up. Little steam rising. I knew there was a impending explosion or something.
Like if I had a gun, I wouldn't want to shoot anyone. I would just want to shoot it in the air a bunch.
Well, and we had talked about that stuff and about getting it to them, and you were ready. You had it.
I was so excited.
You nailed it, but you just sent a kid, and that started it.
And there's a few other things. You know, if I tell her something's in the dryer, she can go to the dryer and not find it. I can go to the dryer and hand it to her. When I got back to the car, and to me, that's disrespectful. Like you don't respect my time enough to just go get it yourself. Right. I have to now go get it.
And you told her exactly where it was at.
I told her exactly where it was. So it made me second guess, like, oh, I bet you it got moved. Nope. I opened the back door. I could have shut my eyes and reached in and grabbed it. And she said she couldn't find it anywhere. I think my thing that triggers me is I get slighted. I feel like you've disrespected that this was important to me. You just completely disregarded it from the moment you went there. Like maybe she was embarrassed that I sent her to go get these clothes for her friend. And you never know what's going on in their little teenage minds.
Right.
And so that made me even more fired up. But either way.
And then when we got to the car, and the seat was actually flipped down.
And it's staring at us.
And you could see it open, and I look over there, and she's got her hand on her hip holding this bag up. You can see flames dancing in her eyes, and I knew it was pretty serious.
And it's nothing. Our whole message is drop the rope. That was the opposite in my heart. And I wanted to raise heck over this event. It wasn't me making myself feel that way. I had a physiological response to what happened. And so it got us down this discussion of these emotions attached to other emotions that have been developed over years and years of life.
And all the things that cause them and the things we don't even recognize that cause them.
Yeah. And I've heard Dave and Rachel Hollis say, don't get to the point where it's, pass me the mustard. It's not about the mustard, but you've gotten to that point. My best friend in Indiana, she put something on Facebook this week, and I was like, oh gosh, that lady is studying my life because it came on the tail of this stupid bag of clothes.
She's sitting back watching, picking the parts out of it.
Right, studying it.
Yep.
So it's long, but did you want me to read it?
I think so. I think it's worth reading it. You have to follow it to understand it, but I think with what we've said, I think you can get it for sure.
Yeah. This is a passage by Marlena Tilhan Haslam. And she says, if we feel something excessively and intensely, it's a sign that we have shame-bound another feeling, which means that this feeling was not tolerated in our childhood, and every time it arises, our anxiety level rises. We then try to push it down to stop ourselves from feeling it, but then the energy of that feeling gets displaced and added to a feeling we believe to be more acceptable to feel and express. The more acceptable feeling then takes on a bigger form, and we end up having panic attacks instead of expressing our frustrations about someone. Or we get depressed instead of setting boundaries with people who treat us in disrespectful ways. Or we explode in a rage because we don't allow ourselves to admit to feeling hurt, alone, or unsupportive. There are thousands of examples like the above. Sadly, we always believe that our misdirected expression like rage or depression is the problem we need to fix. And so we focus on the result of the problem and not on its actual cause, which means that we cannot solve it.
No. Well, and I think that most of the time you're not ready to let it go. You want to pursue being mad. You want to chase, what caused you to get to that point, and you want to go take care of it and go, take it out on somebody.
Yeah, you do.
And that's the hardest part to let go, is that part of it. That's if you can stop yourself to the point. I don't know that you figure it out every time, but at least you have the chance.
It sure takes some maturity, and I call that riding that wave of emotion and just allowing it to decide how you're going to react. And it's going to take a maturity to be able to, just like Doc said, go sit on his bed and say, whoa, like that cannot be a result of what is happening with my little girl. My little girl could not have awakened this rage within me. This has to do with something else.
Where do you think it comes from? Where does the rage come from?
Oh, I hate that you asked me because sorry guys, I'm gonna grab a drink. I think I'm getting what Jay had, and we go for the run this weekend.
Yep.
So hopefully it'll come through. I usually don't get sick for very long, but I woke up in the middle of the night with my head just completely stopped up. And then I think if Jay said he woke up at a different time and heard me and was like, oh no, because of the race this weekend. No. But it'll be okay because the whole training for the race has been just as much fun as the race is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll get to be with my sister, and that was the entire point of the whole race.
Right.
So I don't know. I know I don't like being slighted. I don't like being disrespected. I think that this is a wonderful game sheet to take to a therapist and say, this is what happened. And I think I've found a really good one. And so I think I'm just going to take it to her and just say, this is what happened. What do you think?
Yeah. Because from my standpoint and looking at that and talking about being slighted, sometimes I don't realize that that's something that's going to, you're going to feel slighted too. I don't even realize it sometimes. So learning to identify that, I guess, is one part of the process. But that's not easy to do every time.
No, it's not. But it's not your job either, babe. Right. I mean, when I hear you say that, we got into a fight, or dust up, as we say, a couple of weeks ago, and it was a doozy. It really was pretty bad. And we started in the loft, spent some time downstairs, ended up in the driveway. Things had taken long enough for Jay to finally get calm with me, and he said, will you do me a favor? And I said, what? And I was not ready to be okay. I was not good. And I was so mad that horrible moment was going to end up on our podcast. I was so furious because I knew it was.
Yeah.
I hate that part of it because at the time, I hate it. I'm like, I don't care if every fight ends up on our podcast, but this one is not going to.
Right.
And so anyways, he said, you do me a favor. And I said, what? And he said, I have the worst time remembering anything that we say in these fights. Will you do me a favor? Will you write down everything that you are wanting from me or every way I'm disappointing you? Will you write all of it down for me? And I have just about lost it because I was so, his humility, he just dropped the rope. That was him dropping the rope. And I just imagined myself going up to the loft and getting out a pen and pad. How great am I that I can sit down and write someone else's faults for them? How big of a jerk would that take for me to sit down and go, I am perfect, but this is where I need you to be working on your things. And yes, he needs to work on some things, but so do I. And there's nothing, it's such an even playing field.
Right.
Where if I can convince you that Jay has this fault, I have the same exact level of a fault. It's all even. And that rage and that just where nothing good is taking place, oh goodness, it just needs to head out. And so the next time we had a disagreement, because I just knew every time that we've had a disagreement, I don't even remember it. I don't.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. The crazy part of all of it is we never remember. You could ask me what that was about. I don't have a clue. I really don't. And what we had a minor one this week. I don't even know what it was. And then in that conversation, I did drop the rope. I wasn't angry anymore, and I realized, we're not going to gain anything continuing like that. But I truly was lost in the conversation as far as tell me what, all the things you've told me. Tell me, because I don't remember part of it now, and we just talked about it, and I'm not going to remember it after this. And I want to avoid doing this again.
Yes.
If I can, because you and I together, we are zero production when we're like that. We just don't get much done.
Well, the whole entire end game, so my brother says, is what do you want in the end of this? Where are you going with this? What do you want to win? Our entire end game in that rage is to stump the other one, to say something that stumps the other one, that they get that look on their face like, oh man, he's right. I do that. I am horrible. That's what we're going for. And that's so harmful. It's so harmful. And what I was telling Jay is, we're not all for sweeping things under the rug, and we're not all for not addressing things or just completely ignoring things so that we can have a good relationship. But when it comes to us, there could be 29 days out of the month where something he does not bother me. Yeah. It's not an issue. I don't need to write it down for him. But on that one day, it's like a marriage breaker. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, I've had it. I'm sick of this, and you need to work on this. And I've told you this before, and you're still doing it. If it's okay 29 days of the month and it's not okay in that moment, let's just dial it back and look at it from the numbers standpoint and realize, hey, sister, like maybe you're having a bad day. Could that be the issue? So when we went into our next dust up, which was last week, we have about one every week. Yeah. And it either gets really ugly or we learn how to get past it. We're kind of a pass-fail couple. So we started a dust up this week, and he was so frustrated because I wouldn't tell him what was wrong. I just wouldn't. I just would not. And I knew he wanted me to know. He wanted me to say, and I just wouldn't say it. And
that goes back to that 29 days. And we're talking about you doing it, and I do it too. But I'm saying that 29 days, it's fine. Something's triggered you. I don't have a clue what it is, because the other 29 days it was fine.
Right.
But today it's not. I've made you mad, and I can tell something's wrong, even though you won't say. And if I misspoke or a misunderstanding, I want to know so I can try to fix it. But I can tell it's something that I probably don't need to know because you're not going to answer, but it's hard to let that go.
It is so hard to let it go. There's been times in the past where you wouldn't tell me what was going on. There was something wrong, but you wouldn't tell me, and the rage I felt towards you for not being my person and talking to me. But we're realizing now that this is an inside job. If that one day triggered me, it's me. It's not you. It's not what you're doing. It's what's going on with me. What our pastor tells us is to just draw a circle around ourselves. And that doesn't mean don't communicate. Don't ever communicate anymore as a couple, and don't discuss the problems that are going on in your marriage. But our dust-ups are not beneficial for our marriage.
Right.
And so the more and more we can learn about them and about each other and about keeping it an inside job. And that day when I withheld all of it from you, hours later, I didn't feel that way anymore. We avoided a dust up. The next day, I don't even remember why I was... You know, sometimes, babe, I am so frustrated and you're asking me what's wrong and I'm digging for answers. I'm digging.
Why am I bad?
Yes.
I get it. Yeah.
And so that's not fruitful. That's not fruitful for a marriage. And so when we talk about dropping the rope, we're not talking about just avoiding every type of communication or every type of discussion that needs to be had. We're talking about dropping the rope when you are looking at that splinter in someone else's eye, when there's a plank in your own.
Yeah.
When you are needing to stay inside your circle because this is an inside job and has nothing to do with the other person. We're talking about when there's rage and anger and a discussion that's happening that you're going to have to recuperate from because so much damage is going to be done.
Right.
That's when we're talking about dropping the rope.
Well, and a key part of that for me too is outside of our personal relationship, mine and yours, but being a blended family. When you have children, like we've talked about before, that they're not yours, they've been raised different. There's things with them that bother you. It's something that for me personally that I've learned to do. Not all the time, obviously. I don't get it right, but I've learned to do a lot. That little stuff is just let that go. I mean, right then, it makes you mad that it happened, that it's done, or they didn't listen, or whatever. But in 20 minutes, most of the time, or at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything to you. It's just like Lily not getting that stuff out of the car.
Right.
I mean, 2 hours or an hour after you came back to that car, it was done. I mean, it was over. It didn't matter then at that point. You just have to get yourself past it long enough, either control your anger or drop the rope or,
Right.
For me, it's just not say anything. Just bite your tongue, and just get by it because, I mean, really it's not going to mean anything. It's not that you and I may not go back and talk to it if it's about a kid, that's something that's wrong, and we try to fix it, but right then I don't say something that doesn't need to be said.
Right. We have some friends, every marriage has a different style of argument. And we have some really good friends that their style is they get in an argument, whether one knows about what's going on or it's just someone's been triggered, and then they'll go a few days in silence. And then it just goes away. They come back together. They don't talk about it. They don't fight about it. There's not tears. There's not screaming. It's just a few days of quiet, and then it fades away, and then they go on their way.
Somebody takes the first step and fixes it, and there you go. When
I first heard about it, I was so judgmental. I was like, that is so unhealthy. You guys need to be talking. Why can't you talk to each other? And the more we're delving into our marriage, not necessarily are they on to something, but the truth is always somewhere in the middle. The truth can totally be somewhere between not talking for 3 or 4 days and having it out in the driveway where the cops need to be called. And so I always think there's a lot that we can teach each other, and just sharing our lives with each other and showing the different perspectives are so helpful. Something our pastor was pointing out this week is the amount that you judge others is what the Lord tells us is the amount that will be judged upon us. The amount of grace that we extend to others is the same amount of grace that will be extended to us. The amount we forgive others is the same. Whatever we put out is what comes back to us. And in our marriage, we need to be careful with how much we are withholding and how much we are judging in our relationships. We're needing to be careful. In our blended family, there are ex-wives, there are ex-husbands. There are these relationships that we're refusing to forgive, and we're refusing to let some things go. And if you trust in God's word, you know that whatever you're holding on to, unforgiveness or judgment or anger or rage, you have to know that that's what you are calling onto yourself.
No.
And you're going through all of this work to grow. If you're listening to this podcast, you're wanting to grow in your life. And if you are holding on to some things because of what has happened in the past, and goodness, I get it. I get it. Some people don't deserve forgiveness, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't forgive them. And I think we need to pay attention to that.
Well, and too, when, humility, we've talked about that a lot this week. And for me, in our relationship, it's just stopping long enough to think that, and I'm trying to do this every time that we argue, I don't get it done, but just that, I'm not always right. Even if I think I am, I'm missing something that I could be wrong. And that the person that I care about the most thinks she's 100% right. So somewhere, we're off there. But I just have to sit back long enough and breathe long enough, or walk away from it long enough to get past that.
For sure. And I know, I think it's just so beautiful to see over and over and over that rage candle just be blown out. I mean, as soon as you said, would you do me a favor? And it was just in a different tone. It was in a different energy. And I knew we were going to start heading back in the right direction. And you, as the leader of our home and the leader of our family, you were able to do that. And I went from being so mad at you and wanting to claw your eyes out to being so attracted to your humility. And it drew me back in.
Well, and to just knowing that if you can get yourself, for me, if I can get myself, my mind to know to calm down, to say something like that, not knowing even that was going to fix it, but just to get to that position that, the life that we love, the time that we love together, if you can just, get down, pull yourself back enough to say, hey, that's it. The good stuff's coming, quick. Right. And that's what we're here for. Mm-hmm. But just being able to step back long enough to get to that point. But the more it happens, the more I know that, hey, I've got to figure out a way. I've got to, realize that I'm wrong here, and I want to get to that good stuff. I don't like this. I don't like that feeling at all.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. What else you got, babe?
Well, I wanted to finish with this verse, and it's in Romans. It's Romans 12:18, and he just says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And I love that, as far as it depends on you, because our main theme from our church and from our pastor has been draw a circle around yourself. That is something that I'm an imagery person, and so to see that little stick figure inside that circle, just like we say, drop the rope. This past couple of weeks, it's been so helpful to just keep telling myself, stay in your circle, because there's enough work that needs to be done here in this circle. I don't need to go into your circle and start helping you with yours. I don't have time. I've got to stay here in this circle and fix what's going on here.
I'm over here working away. Let me be.
Yeah. Something you said that I wanted to send to other blended families. And this goes to normal families. What did I say? Traditional families also. But something you said to me a few weeks ago that really resonated. It's those certain sentences that finally penetrate, and then that resonated with me, and you just told me to put the cattle prod away. And I just had this imagery of you trying to parent your children and me behind you with a cattle prod, and how harmful that can be to the dynamic of our home. because, we'll go throughout our day or throughout our week or throughout our month. And in my mind, I'm good with my kids. I am. I'm so used to them. I'm used to their faults. I'm used to their behaviors that we're kind of at some zero. We're just at an even keel line. Right. But with your children, I see them with different eyes. And so it's so highlighted. And I think we all need to realize in blended families that you're going to see your children's behavior one way and you're going to see your stepchildren's behavior another way. And we have talked about that on another episode, but I think you just need to realize that. Try to see if the accuracy of that can be possible, and it just can't. You can't have your children being perfect and your stepchildren needing work. It just cannot be that way all of the time. But if your heart is pointing in that direction, there's some heart work that needs to be done. And when you were saying, going back to, I think I'm 100% right, and the person I love the most thinks she's 100% right, you just look at the numbers. Can that all be occurring at the same time? It can't. And I realized that I can go weeks without needing to really have a discussion about my kids. But with my stepkids, I'd like to talk about their behavior often. With your stepkids, you would like to talk about their behavior often. Right. And so I think that's something that we need to remind each other, that this is something that we're needing to look at it from a different perspective, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think we've been together long enough now, and one thing that I enjoy is that when you can get over yourself and realize that your kids aren't perfect and that the others aren't kids, but the things that they do that you did better as a parent that I can implement, with my children, when you can get to the point where you can look at that for real life and know, yep, that was right. I should have been doing this way. I want to fix that. I mean, to me, when we got to that point, that's when our children blossomed, and that's when you could realize that everything you were doing wasn't perfect. I could realize everything I was doing wasn't perfect. Right. When we were able to break that down and kind of work together on that part of it and quit fighting, quit pulling on that rope with each other.
And have some humility. Yeah. And we also can report that we're at the very end of a weekend as the 7 of us, and we had zero. We had zero drama. We had 0 tears, 0 meltdowns, 0 aggression as far as our family dynamic goes between step-parents and stepchildren. We had none. Yeah. So pretty great.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. And we know that there's things that are still coming out there, but, that's life.
Yeah.
But we also know that, or I feel like, we're better equipped to handle it.
I do too.
And I think, the trial and error we've gone through and the fights that have started over that, I think it was all in the process of getting there. They weren't fun at the time, but I think we had to have them to be able to get to the good stuff.
I do too. I wish I'd have known Summer's quote in 3 years ago. Yeah. I go back to January. That's when we started our podcast, but I wish I would have known her quote 3 years ago, but I fully believe in walking through the fire and getting rescue on the other side. And I love having this rescue, and I can't wait to send it out to each of you.
Well, and two, I think for me, I've realized as a step-parent that it's not about me being a great step-parent or doing everything right. It's being able to have our family have that cohesion, and for those kids to know who their father is. That's not me.
Right.
But I need to get them headed down that path.
Right.
My kids along with them.
Right.
And do it in a way that's, that's loving and manageable.
Yeah. You're right, babe. I love that.
Yep.
So,
what else you got?
I think that's it. I think we're ready to go to sleep. You want to go to sleep?
I'm ready.
Me too. I'm
As
so tired.
As the song says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
I love you.
I love you too.
We sure appreciate y'all listening today. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can search for us, Moving On Podcast. That's 3 words, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We would love to hear from you. With ways you're figuring out how to drop the ropes in each of your own lives, and even ways that you're not, hell, that's just as entertaining to us. See you in a couple of weeks.